What would you pay to know the truth, the real truth about life and death and the soul and the purpose of it all? For most of human history, people have paid everything: money, loyalty, blood, their sense of right and wrong, even their children. Not because the answers were guaranteed, but because someone claimed to have them, and that claim, it built temples. It built empires, whole civilizations wrapped around the idea that access to the truth is something you have to buy, obey, or bleed for. But what if it isn't? What if the real answer costs nothing? No tithe, no doctrine, just presence, a moment, a connection, no gatekeepers, no sacred middlemen, just you and whatever might be on the other end. Now you've got a problem. Because if the truth is free, then the most profitable product in human history, religion as transaction, starts to collapse. That's the tension, that's the question, and that's what we're here to unpack. What if there really is something else out there? Not a man in the clouds, not a rule book from the heavens, just something, a presence, a pattern, a force that occasionally brushes past us when we aren't looking. What if we've all felt it, in strange dreams, in sudden peace, in a conversation where you knew what the other person was going to say before they said it? Or when someone you're thinking about, really thinking about, calls you out of nowhere? Or when the wind picks up all of a sudden, right as a thought crosses your mind, and it feels like the world just answered you? When the room goes quiet and something in your chest shifts, and for a moment you feel like someone or something is watching with love. These aren't miracles, they're not proof, but there's something, and most of us at some point in our lives have felt it. Now, what if that something is real? What if the mystical isn't a fantasy or a flaw in your brain, but a form of connection we've simply forgotten how to use? And here's the more dangerous question. What if organized religion wasn't built to help us find it, but to make sure it gets credit when we do? What if the system was never meant to bring you closer to the divine, only to repackage that feeling into something marketable? Think about it. The idea of a personal connection to something greater, a direct inner experience of the sacred, doesn't require a priest. It doesn't require a temple. It doesn't even require belief. It just happens. It's unpredictable, untamable, unbranded. And that's the problem, because religion isn't afraid of the mystical. It needs it. It depends on it. It wants people to feel something so it can step in and say, yes, that was God, our God. Come inside and we'll tell you what it meant. But the moment someone says, I had this experience and I understand it without your help, or worse, I had it and I don't need to pay you for it, that's when things shift. That's when the same sacred experience becomes hearsay, witchcraft, a false path, not because it's evil, but because it happened without their cut. Ask Joan of Arc, ask Galileo, ask Bruno, ask the mystics and the witches and the dreamwalkers. The crime was not seeing the sacred, it was skipping the middleman and refusing to tip. And what if that's the clue? What if the mystical has always been a threat to religion, not because it's false, but because it might be real? Because it doesn't ask for donation, it asks for connection. It doesn't build cathedrals, it builds moments. Small, quiet moments. Too fragile to survive a pulpit, too personal to be mass-produced. I'm not saying I know what's real, and I'm not here to sell a new belief system. I'm just wondering, what if the sacred was never meant to be sold? What if it's not something you're handed, but something you notice? Something small, something personal, something we all might have, but rarely slow down enough to feel. And maybe it's something we can nurture. Not with rituals or rules, but with presence, with honesty, with care. Maybe the sacred doesn't demand our reverence. Maybe it deserves it. Because it's quiet, because it doesn't force itself, because it waits. And what if this connection, this invisible thread between us and something more, is the most valuable thing we'll ever touch? And what if the moment you try to sell it, it disappears? But the moment you trade it for wisdom and truth, for meaning, it gives you more than you ever thought was there. So maybe the next time something stirs, quiet but undeniable, you won't rush to dismiss it. You won't hand it off to someone else to define. You won't wrap it in stories that were never yours. Maybe you'll recognize it for what it is, a moment that needs nothing from you but honesty. No payment, no priest, no myth to lean on, just the raw possibility that something real is happening. And all it asks is that you stop, be still, and let it speak. The church never found the divine. They just franchised it, and now you're paying a subscription fee on your own soul.